everyone. Welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne and Amanda.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne. So today we're going to have a little bit of fun because we have another birthday. I can't believe it's already been a year, but it is my dear friend Audrey's birthday, and if you've seen any of the past videos, I always try to make a recipe from her mom on her birthday. So today we're going to make butter balls, and it is a wonderful butter cookie. It's a very old recipe, and I believe that just about everyone always makes these cookies as part of their cookie platter during the holidays, and this is a perfect recipe. And actually, we used to do them at the restaurant.
Oh yeah.
As part of our petit four plate.
Everyone loves them.
And you know, there is just some recipes that really do stand the test of time, and this happens to be one of them. So,
let's do it.
this is Amanda's first time making these butter balls, so that's very exciting.
I've eaten them plenty of times.
So we'll talk about the ingredients as we go along. I have a stand mixer here. You can just use a hand mixer. You can even make these by hand if you really want to. But since we have our mixer, we're going to go ahead and use it. First thing Amanda's going to do is put in 2 sticks of butter, which is 8 ounces. And I still always use unsalted butter. So that is 8 ounces of unsalted butter or 1 cup of butter. We're using the paddle attachment here. And we're going to make sure that the butter is nice and smooth and room temperature, which I've had it out for about an hour. So you just want to run it for a little bit to make sure that the butter is really soft, and then we'll add our next ingredient.
Before we put anything else in?
Yep. In Mrs. D'Angelo's recipe, she says 4 tablespoons, which is 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. And because I use unsalted butter, and it's not in her recipe, but I do believe that our moms used to use salted butter all the time, we're going to salt this butter. So I added 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt to the butter and the sugar. Now you want to whip this on medium speed where it's very nice and fluffy, as Mrs. D'Angelo says. So go ahead. So what was your favorite cookie on Grandma's cookie platter?
Oh, the jelly cookie.
Definitely.
The thumbprint cookies, and she always had like the different kinds of jelly inside.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Those are actually one of my favorites too.
In the chocolate peanut butter balls. Yeah, it was so great.
I think everybody has a favorite cookie during the holidays. Okay, so what's really nice at this point is to shut it off. Amanda is going to put in a teaspoon of vanilla.
Okay.
This is pure vanilla extract. Okay.
Go.
And just one ingredient that I am going to add to the recipe that is not in Mrs. D'Angelo's recipe, which is just a touch of water. 1 teaspoon, exactly the same amount as the vanilla. And what is the reason behind it? I want to hydrate the dough just a little bit. And the reason for that is this is a very crumbly cookie.
Yeah.
This is a cookie that you pop in your mouth and it just melts, and it's buttery and it's just delicious. But you don't want the cookie dry. So I usually add just a teaspoon of water to this recipe, and it just hydrates the cookie perfectly.
Is it almost like a shortbread cookie?
Yes, it
it's similar
absolutely
texture, right?
It absolutely is. There's no eggs in this recipe.
Oh, yeah,
If you
I
notice,
didn't
there are
realize
no eggs. It is like a shortbread. It's nice and crumbly and very buttery. So you can make it without the water. You don't have to put it in, but it might be something you might want to try. Okay, so go ahead and put that in. So what's really important to do now is to take it off of the mixer.
All right.
And just pick that up.
Even the paddle attachment?
Yeah,
All right.
and just leave it in there, but you can put it in front of you now at this point. And you want to take a rubber spatula and go in, and I can
Yeah, go ahead.
probably show you first what it looks like. this is what you should have, okay? It's really nice and light and fluffy, but you want to make sure that you scrape the sides of the bowl before you go ahead and start adding your flour. So that would be your next step, is just go ahead and scrape it, and then we can add our flour at this point. You can see how easy this recipe is, so you really don't need to use a stand mixer. You can certainly just do this by hand. It just takes a little elbow grease. Good for
Oh yeah, always trying to tone the arms.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
So now you can go ahead and even put your flour in at this point. We have 2 cups. This is a 2-cup measuring cup, and I usually spoon it in and level it off. That's how I measure my flour. Okay.
Are we in there?
Yeah, that's in there.
Go ahead.
And we'll just put in our 2 cups of flour. Now, this is really important to make sure that you do an on-off, because there's a 2 cup. Yes. This is 2 cups of flour, which is a lot of flour. So you want to go on off so that the flour doesn't jump out of the bowl. Okay? Yeah, just like that. Perfect. And then once you see that a good amount of the flour is mixed in with the butter, then you can churn it up. That's good. And really, even what you had it on was great too, but that's perfect. Yeah.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's starting to form into a ball now.
Yep, so you can shut it off.
All right.
And our last ingredient is the nuts. And what's very important here is to toast your nuts. That brings out all the flavor. Also, keep in mind, the salt helps bring out the flavor of the vanilla. It brings out the flavor of the nuts and enriches the butter. So the salt is actually a nice touch. So these I toasted at 350 degrees for about 8 minutes. And then you need to let them cool completely before you go ahead and chop your nuts. So these were all pecan halves, and we chopped them fairly finely. You don't want big pieces of the nut. You want nice, uniform, small pieces.
Okay.
So we have 1 full cup, and at this point you're going to just mix it till everything is completely combined. And that's it to the dough.
Oh, it smells so good.
Yeah.
It's like butter and the walnuts?
Yeah, pecans.
Pecans.
Oh, by the way, that's right. I'm really glad you mentioned that.
It smells so good. I think it's
Yeah,
good,
right? Yeah. The recipe in Mrs. D'Angelo's book calls for walnuts. And I really believe back in our mom's day, walnuts were far more readily available. And you can certainly, and even at the restaurant, we would make them with pecans. We would also make them with walnuts. So you can use your favorite nut. Those are 2 of the best in this particular cookie. But I wouldn't even hesitate to try a different nut, even hazelnuts.
Like pistachio?
Pistachio might be very interesting. If you have parchment paper, it is nice to put some parchment paper on your tray. Now, you can just use a teaspoon, a couple of teaspoons. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Got a little bit extra.
I'll take the spatula and I'll just come up and show you. So you just want to make sure everything is mixed really well. Okay, and you can see the batter looks delicious.
And you don't need to refrigerate it or anything?
If it seems like it's too sticky and you really are having a tough time, if you're going to use one of these little scoopers, you can certainly refrigerate it for, 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
But I don't tend to do that. I usually just kind of go straight ahead. And it's about a tablespoon that we're doing. So you can use whatever size you want and just go in and drop it.
Make it flat on the bottom?
You want to make it flat, but then the actual recipe is to roll them.
Oh.
So if you wanted to, you can pick it up and roll it in your hand, or you can leave them like this.
Because it's not going to spread? It's
No.
going to stay
It's going to stay this size. So if you want to pick it up and go ahead and give it a roll and make them completely rounded, you can, or you can keep them like that. however you're happy with.
Nice.
Okay? And so I have my oven set. Now, in Mrs. D'Angelo's recipe, she baked them at 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. What you're looking for is just a nice golden brown around the edges and the bottom. These cookies get very little color on top. Now,
yeah, very pale,
yeah,
kind of beige color.
Our moms had ovens, gas ovens, which 350 probably makes a lot of sense. My oven is electric and it cooks, I believe, a little bit quicker. So I tend to bake mine at 325 and basically the same amount of time, 20 to 25 minutes. So you can test your oven out just by trying to bake off one cookie to decide whether 350 is better for you or 325. You have a gas oven. Do you?
I haven't done what you've suggested, I'll be honest. I've never tested one cookie out. I usually get the whole tray ready, and then if they're a little burnt, they're a little burnt. But yeah, it's a good tip for me to think about.
But no, you can go ahead and do them at 350 and see how that works. But I think that's plenty. So since I rolled these, we can roll all of them.
Okay.
So once these come out of the oven, we're going to let them cool completely, and then we can dust them with confectioner's sugar, that 10x sugar. And I do like to pass the sugar, the 10x sugar, through a strainer, so it's very light and fluffy and there's no lumps. So here's our cookies. They're going into the oven, 325. I'll set my timer for 20 minutes and take a look at them, and then we'll see if it needs any more time. They're so good. I mean, they're just delicious.
So buttery and crumbly,
Yeah.
but not dry.
It's perfect, absolutely perfect.
They're a little addictive.
So once again, happy birthday, Audrey. Okay, we're gonna get these in the oven and we'll be back and we'll dust them and we'll get to taste one.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, see you soon. Okay, so we're finished with the cookies and I just wanna show you a couple of things. This tray I rolled, and this tray we just dropped with the scoop, and I have to say that they're almost identical.
Yeah.
So if you happen to have one of the small scoops, then you don't need to roll it. If you're going to use a tablespoon and scoop it that way, then you probably do need to roll the dough. But otherwise, they look exactly the same. So here we have them. Okay, and I want to show you what the bottom looks like. It's just golden brown, and it's just slightly brown around the edges, which is what you're looking for. This was 325 degrees, and they came out after 23 minutes. So to dip them in the confectioner's sugar, you can do it one of two ways. You can do them the way Amanda's going to show you, which is putting each cookie in, rolling it in the confectioner's sugar, and then placing them on the tray.
Do a little tap.
Yep, like so.
All right.
And the way we did it at the restaurant was we just took some confectioner's sugar into a strainer and we just shook the confectioner's sugar and popped it right over.
A lot faster.
So you can do it either way. You can put as much or as little sugar as you like. Hopefully you can see how quickly that happened.
Yeah, this
And
sugar
then-
is a little bigger almost.
Right, exactly. So that's it. So, again, happy birthday to my dear friend Audrey.
Happy birthday, Auntie Audrey. Thank you so much to Mrs. D'Angelo
I
for
know.
giving us this recipe.
Yeah, this is a real treasure, and it's so wonderful to have. How is it?
It's amazing.
Good. And this is a wonderful two-tiered stand that was my mom's, and she has handed it down to me, which I treasure also. And I think back in the 50s and 60s, this was really popular, but it's still really popular when you do an afternoon tea. You put some pastries on top, sandwiches, you know, little finger sandwiches on the bottom. So I think it's appropriate to be using this today. So we'll just put some around.
If you have any family recipes that you'd like us to try out or demonstrate, go ahead and comment below and share the recipe with our followers.
Here we go.
Beautiful.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay,
I'll
thanks. Thanks very much. Keep rolling.
All right.
Okay, happy birthday.
See you next time.